Hello, good morning, students. So, you know already your chapter number 14, water, which is going on, and up to the formation of cloud, this part is over. So, now the next part from your NCERT book, I will start today. So, our page number is 141, means 141, and topic number is 14.4. Back to the oceans. What happens to the water that rain and snow bring to different regions of earth? So actually you can see here what will happen whenever the rain will be there and snow will come and fall on the surface of the earth. So afterwards, how the amount of water will increase on the surface of the earth, and these are known as the surface water. Almost all land surfaces are above the levels of oceans or level of oceans. Generally, we can say that the sea level is the lower than the land level. So land levels are little bit higher than the sea levels. Most of the water that falls on the land as rain and snow sooner or later goes back to the oceans. So again I repeat, most of the water that falls on the land as rain and snow sooner or later goes back to the oceans. So anyhow it will go back to the oceans. This happens in many ways. So this thing may happen in many ways. So regarding these ways we'll discuss now. Snow in the mountains melts into water. This water flows down the mountains in the form of streams and rivers. Some of the water that falls on the land as rain also flows in the form of rivers and streams. So easily you can understand, and already one picture is given. Figure number 14.8, you can see rainwater flows down in the form of streams and rivers. Very easy part. Now, some of the water that falls on the land as rain also flows in the form of rivers and streams. Most of the rivers cover long distances on land, so you know this is very quite natural that few rivers are very short in length and few rivers cover long distances on the land and ultimately fall into a sea or an ocean. However, water of some rivers flows into lakes. This is also quite natural. Few of the rivers will directly fall into the sea or an ocean, and however, water of some rivers flow into lakes. The rainwater also fills up the lakes and ponds. A part of the rainwater gets absorbed by the ground and seems to disappear in the soil. So whenever this means rivers, it will run on the land, that moment this water will seep into the soil through the pores of the soil, and it will go inside, means deep inside the soil, to the water table, and it will be stored under the or in the water table. This way groundwater level may increase. Some of this water is brought back to the air by the process of evaporation and transpiration. So little bit of water, again it will come to the atmosphere by the process of evaporation through the upper surface of the river or open surface water bodies like lakes, rivers, oceans, this way, and by the transpiration of the plants. And you know the process of transpiration. The excessive water absorbed by the plants, they will release from their body through stomata or lenticels. This process is called transpiration. So these two ways, by the evaporation and by the transpiration, the water may or the water particles may increase in the atmosphere. The rest seeps into the ground, already mentioned, basically through the rivers, oceans, or you can say through the dams. When we preserve water in the dams, under the dams, the water will seep into the ground and it will increase the underground water level. Most of this water becomes available to us as groundwater. Open wells are fed by groundwater. Groundwater is the source for many lakes as well. It is also this groundwater which is drawn by a hand pump or a tube well. So generally in our homes all we have the submersible pump or we have the tube wells, and through these tube wells or submersible pumps we can draw water from the underground. It is also this groundwater which is drawn by the hand pump or tube well, already mentioned. The more hand pumps or tube wells that are used in an area, the deeper we need to dig to find this groundwater. The loss in the level of groundwater due to overuse is worrisome. Actually, nowadays the population is becoming more and more. So the population density becomes more and more because the number of people are getting more, means gatheration is more. So as many as people will be there in a particular place, the demand of water will be more and more. So we need to bore more wells or tube wells or pumping station for this purpose. And when the water demand or demand of water will be more, that moment you have to draw more and more amount of water, then automatically in that particular area the underground water level should go down. But if the local area or in a particular area the number of people will be less, then the demand of water will also be less. So that moment little bit of water will be enough for daily purposes. Then the underground water level may not decrease or may not go down. So this concept you have to keep in your mind. And as the water level should go down in a particular area, it will be worrisome, means that on this particular purpose you have to be worried, because after few years you may not get proper amount of potable or underground water. Paheli wants to share a concern with you. In those areas where the land has little or no vegetation, the rainwater flows away quickly. Flowing rainwater also takes the top layer of the soil away with it. There are few areas where most of the land is covered with concrete. This reduces the seepage of rainwater into the ground, which ultimately affects the availability of groundwater. So one more reason for the affection of, means you can say, the things which are affecting nowadays the availability of groundwater, one of the step is for that we are making concrete the land areas. Basically, generally in your house also you can say the normal soil you cannot see, because all the part of your, means house, or you can say the side parts of the buildings are made of concrete. So that moment when there will be some rain, so this water cannot go under the soil. So due to this reason, basically underground water level getting decreased day by day, because we are making concrete the maximum area of our houses. We know this is the reason for underground water level, means this is the one of the major reason for the decreasing of underground water level. We know all the things, but then also we are doing this. We are only responsible for that. We cannot blame others. So now we now know that water brought back to the surface of the earth by rain. So how we can get the water again to the surface of the earth? One of the process is rain or hail or snow and goes back to oceans. Thus water from the ocean and surface of the earth goes into air as vapor. So how we are getting water on the surface of the earth? By either by rain or by hail or snow. And how again this water goes back to the atmosphere? One of the process is called into air as vapor or return as rain, hail or snow, and finally goes back to the oceans. This is the circulation of water, or you can say water cycle. So this circulation of water in this manner is known as the water cycle. This circulation of water between ocean and land is a continuous process. This maintains the supply of water on land. So this way we can get the water on the land also. Next is 14.5. The next topic. What if it rains heavily? So if we will not get rain in proper manner, that moment we may face drought, and if the rain will be become more and more, then also we have to face one natural disaster, that is called flood. So the time, duration and the amount of rainfall varies from place to place, that we know, which is very common in our country, specifically in India. If you think in different regions or different states, the amount of rainfall is not same. Somewhere throughout the year it is maximum and somewhere it is very less. If the rainfall will be very less for long years in a particular area, there after few years, 10 to 12 years later, you can see that particular area becomes desert, like Rajasthan, few parts of the Gujarat, these areas throughout the year rainfall is very less, and few areas are also there in our country where throughout the year the maximum amount of rainfall is going on, like Meghalaya, you can say. So these areas are very greenery, means lot of types of vegetables, lot of types of trees you can see in those areas, and maximum time you can see the soil is very wet, means the upper part of the soil is very wet. So about this topic we'll discuss over here. In some parts of the world it rains throughout the year, while there are places where it rains only for a few days. In our country, most of the rainfall occurs during the monsoon season, and it is also depending on the season. Generally in winter season the maximum areas are very dry, but in monsoon maximum areas you can face the rainfall. Rains bring relief, especially after hot summer days, that we know. The sowing of many crops depends on the arrival of monsoon. However, excess of rainfall may lead to many problems, already discussed about the flood. Heavy rains may lead to rise in the level of water in rivers, lakes and ponds. The water may then spread over large areas, causing floods. The crop fields, forests, villages, and cities may get submerged by water. In our country, floods cause extensive damage to crops. Little bit water is also required for crop production, but excessive water, it will also damage the crops. So, domestic animals also property and human life. During floods, the animals living in water also get carried away with the waters. They often get trapped on land areas and die when flood water recedes. Rain also affects the animals living in the soil. Now, our next topic is 14.6. What happens if it does not rain for a long period? Already told, if in a particular area, if rainfall will not be there for long time, that particular area becomes desert. So can you imagine what would happen if it does not rain in a region for a year or more? The soil continues to lose water by evaporation and transpiration, already discussed earlier. Since it is not being brought back by rain, the soil becomes dry. The level of water in the ponds and wells of the region does means goes down, and some of them may even dry up. The groundwater may also become scarce. This may lead to drought. In drought conditions, it is difficult to get food and fodder. You might have heard about droughts occurring in some parts of our country or the world. Are you aware of the difficulties faced by the people living in these areas, which are very common? What happens to the animals and the vegetation in these conditions? So you have to answer these questions. If in a particular area some of the people should face the drought conditions, then what means how they will feel the difficulties, or how they will face the difficulties of that area, and what happens to the animals and the vegetation in these conditions. You have to think and you have to answer. Try and find out about this by talking to your parents and neighbors and by reading about it from newspapers and magazines. Next, our topic is how can we conserve water? Topic number 14.7. Only a small fraction of water available on the earth, that we know, very little bit of water is potable. Potable means it means all the water we cannot take as drinkable water. So what percentage of water is left in the means in our earth surface that we can take as drinkable water, that is called potable water, and the percentage of that water is very less nowadays and on the earth, and is fit for use of plants also, animals and humans. Most of the water is in the oceans and it cannot be used directly because salt is mixed with the ocean or sea water, which is salty water. We cannot take it directly. When the level of groundwater decreases drastically, this cannot be used anymore. The total amount of water on the earth remains the same, but the water available for use is very limited and is decreasing with overusage. The demand for water is increasing day by day as the number of people using the water is increasing with rising of population. In many cities, long queues for collection of water are a common sight. So many cities and villages are also there, which are means from the people living in those cities, or you can say basically the villages, they to bring the water they have to walk 5 or 6 kilometers to bring one bucket or any vessel of water. For that they have to walk 5 to 6 kilometers. for drinking purposes basically. So just you think what is the condition of them. Also, more and more water is being used for producing food and by the industries. These factors are leading to shortage of water in many parts of the world. Hence, it is very important that water is used carefully. We should take care not to waste water. You also have to think how many ways you can keep the water in means proper manner, means how you can use the water in proper manner. Don't waste water, because otherwise it will be very much difficult for coming generations, basically the potable water. And our one topic is left of this chapter, which is rainwater harvesting. So students, I hope you all have understand very nicely this portion, and rainwater harvesting, this part will be discussed in our next video. So up to these students, thank you. Visit again.